All right, so let's be honest for a second, right? This is a safe space. Listen, we're primordial beings that have ascended to deity status, living in an eternal realm where their face is a perpetual flame, remembering what it was like to be mortal. And sorry, where were we? Look, when people talk about storytelling in Dungeons & Dragons, we love to throw around all the big stuff, like world building, epic villains, giant maps with too many rivers. Okay, maybe that's just me. But at the end of the day, being a dungeon master is less about this encyclopedic lore dump and all that knowledge, and it's really more about how you're actually telling the story in the moment. And the secret weapon here is pacing, so let's talk about it. So think of it a little bit like sitting around a campfire. That's how I like to think about it, because at the end of the day, D&D was created to be an in-person game because it existed in a world where there really wasn't the technology other than, phones to do it any other way. So a big part of role-playing and a big part of these TTRPGs, it really doesn't matter what system you're using, is purely the pacing and how you're telling the story, at least as a dungeon master, right? Like how you're telling the story. Because you can have all of the knowledge in the world about all of the D&D realms, about everything in your world, you know every city by heart, but if you can't tell a good story, well then it's not going to be fun for the players. So like I said, what I like to do is think about it like a campfire story, like you're telling a scary story. You don't drop every single detail of the plot all at once. You need to build the tension out. You speed things up when the danger is close. You slow things down when you want everyone hanging on every single word that you're saying. And that's what makes players listen and lean in, right? And that's what makes your table feel alive. And that's what brings that energy in all of those sessions that you think back and you go, man, something about today's session was different. Something made the session really, really good. And I guarantee you, it probably came down to either role-playing at the table, so story between players, or something that you did that got the players really, really involved. And that's not a fluke. That's something you can replicate, and it is a skill that you can learn. So let's talk about what pacing actually looks like in your game, right? First of all, it's about knowing when to linger. When your players enter a spooky forest, you don't rush. You don't describe the way the trees creak in the wind, the way the air feels heavy. You have to pause. You have to let them sit in that silence, because that pause is the pacing. You're giving them space to feel the mood. You need to let them digest. And then, when the wolves leap out of the underbrush, you snap the pace forward. You short, punchy sentences, no more long descriptions, because now the story's urgent and now they're in it. Now, the second thing to note is that pacing is all about editing yourself. A lot of new DMs think that they need to explain every last detail of their world, but a good campfire storyteller knows when to stop talking. Nobody needs the full history of the kingdom every single time the party rides into a new town. Instead, try to give them one detail that matters. So if the town has burned out torches lining the road, or maybe the tavern has no music when it should be lively, that's a detail that does more than a 10-minute lore dump. That one detail does more than a 10-minute lore dump ever will, because you're pointing something out very specific that maybe they remember from last time, as opposed to trying to retell the same things that you've always told, or tell new things but sort of regurgitating that.
Oh no, someone's casting sleep on me. Ah, dang, they got me. Now here I am, for 1 minute, according to 5e. Oh look, I'm dreaming about Describe again. I mean, I get it, how could I not? It's got this massive curated library of descriptions, like NPCs, magic items, monsters, and locations, all professionally written and just waiting to drop into a session. Also, it has music, maps, ambient sound effects, and even a place to add your own notes, so everything you need is kind of in just one place. And you can search by theme or mood, and it even connects to your VTT, so you're not scrambling when your players are throwing you a curveball in the middle of the session. It's literally my dream prep space, like literally. Oh crap, I'm waking up. Use code FANTASYFORGE at checkout. Did anyone else just dream of a sponsor?
Now, the third thing is that pacing comes from rhythm. Long stretches of talking are going to bore people. Long stretches of dice rolling are going to exhaust them. The magic in being a good dungeon master, or really specifically being a good storyteller at a TTRPG table, is finding that balance. You need to give them a tense social scene and then switch gears into a combat and then cool it off with some roleplay or some downtime. I like to think of it like music. You need those loud moments, you need those quiet moments, and you need the rests in between, because otherwise all you have is a consistent noise. And that's not what the players are there for. The players are there to play a game, and a game is dynamic. It changes. So if you can find the rhythm that works for your table, you will unlock something absolutely magical when it comes to your storytelling. And again, this is different for every table, right? That's why I can't say describe to them one paragraph and then a couple of quick sentences about the monster and what they look like and then roll initiative, right? Because for some people, they might want more description of the enemy. They may even ask you questions. Every table is going to have their own pace, but finding that pacing and finding that rhythm that works for your table is absolutely important to making them feel like they're in it, like they're ready to play. And then finally, the last piece, campfire storytelling is very personal. When you're around the fire, you're not just telling a story, or I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you are sitting at that table with them, you're telling their story, right? You're telling the story of the characters and you're bringing the players into a world where they can forget that they are, you know, Joe Schmo or whatever, but that they are Valandiel. So drop their names into the descriptions. Look at them when you say something creepy. Lock eyes with them. Get close to them comfortably and with consent, right? But make them feel like the story is wrapping around them and not just happening in front of them. Because pacing isn't just about the speed of the story, it's also about how good you are at creating that sort of intimacy that comes with good storytelling. That's where you get the goosebumps, at least for me. And it's about knowing when to slow down and when to look at your players and when to say, then you hear a twig snap right behind you. Because that brings them in, right? It gets them hooked as opposed to just saying it, right? That little break between words really, really helps. So if you can bring their names into the descriptions, it can really, really elevate the experience for them. And on top of that, by saying their names, you're also sort of subconsciously making them think like their characters. And it really just does feel nice as a player to have your character called out by name. It's just one extra level of immersion. I don't know, that's just me. You know, players out there, let me know if I'm wrong. So if you want to be a better campfire style DM, you need to stop worrying about how much lore you've written or how perfect your accents are and focus on pacing and focus on rhythm and slowing down when you want tension and speeding up when you want panic. Alternate between action and quiet and always make it feel personal, because at the end of the night, your players aren't going to remember, they're not going to remember the name of the Duke's second cousin twice removed, but they will remember the moment that you paused and gave them that shit-eating grin across the table and told them how their player died. Those are those things that are going to make them remember those sessions, and those are the things that make those sessions absolutely legendary. So anyways, that's what I've got for today. Let me know in the comments down below what you do to be a better storyteller, a better dungeon master. I'm sure there are things that I missed. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, don't let the fire die out.